All right, so if you haven't already pulled it out, please go ahead and pull out your FRQ packet. Okay. Let's look at the first part. So on part A, we had a part I and a part II. Part I was to complete the relative frequencies of successful and unsuccessful treatments at each clinic. So the relative frequency for unsuccessful treatment at Clinic A and Clinic B, successful treatment at Clinic A and Clinic B. And then part II, based on the relative frequency table in part AI, which clinic is more successful in treating allergy sufferers? Justify your answer. So your table should have looked like this. If you left them as fractions, that would be okay. Or you could change them into decimal form.
I changed it. I really did that effort.
What?
I changed it to 207.
Are you so familiar?
Oh my god.
Oh, I think mine is what if we already know it's
I
going to be
literally did
Can you
that.
just stop grading it?
No.
I did it out of the
Because you can at least write down the correct pieces. All right, so the relative frequency, when we do relative frequency, as we're looking at each of these clinics, that 139 is the total of people treated at Clinic A. So they had 51 out of 139 unsuccessful treatments at Clinic A. They had 88 out of 139 successful treatments at Clinic A.
So what?
Yes.
How would it be like Clinic A had all the successes out of all the successful rates?
So they asked us to calculate the relative frequency. If you go back and you read the question, we want the relative frequencies of successful and unsuccessful treatments at each clinic. So this part right here tells me I'm going to look at Clinic A, and I want the frequency of successful and unsuccessful at Clinic A. And then I'm going to go and do the same thing at Clinic B. So this, again, is what your two-way table should have looked like. So just comparing these numbers, let's look at the decimals. Unsuccessful treatments at Clinic A is about 37%. Successful treatments is about 63%. Clinic B had about 49% unsuccessful treatments and about 51 successful treatments, or 51%. Which clinic appears to be the most successful? Clinic A. So Clinic A appears to be more successful in treating allergy sufferers than Clinic B. Clinic A was successful for 63.3% of the allergy sufferers it treated, while Clinic B was successful for only about 51.5% of the allergy sufferers it treated. For an essentially correct, you needed this, and you needed this.
Instead of Clinic A, what you have in percentage is that a P?
If you justified it,
What is greater percentage?
if it was a greater percentage, then yes, you could still get part II correct, so you could get a P there, even if you didn't fill out the relative frequency table correctly. So if you made a correct judgment based on incorrect numbers, you would get a partially correct. All right, so let's look at a little bit on our student samples here. So here's student number 1. Clinic A, let's see, 0.366, 0.633, 0.485, 0.514. Clinic A appears more successful in treating allergy sufferers as demonstrated by their greater percentage of successful treatments. Clinic A saw 63.3% of treatments were successful, while Clinic B only shows 51.4% of treatments were successful. What do you guys think? E. The video for today will be on Canvas, yes. Okay, so absolutely, that is an E there. Student 2. Clinic A is more effective because it has a higher relative frequency in treating allergy sufferers. 88 over 139 is greater than 35 over 68. What do you think? Yeah. They had the relative frequency fraction set up correctly. You did not have to have it in decimal form. It makes the comparison easier, but you did not have to have it in decimal form in order to get part I correct. So this is an E. Yes.
So let's say we didn't put like what A was and B was, but like I put the difference of it. Like A had a higher percentage by this.
That would be sufficient, yes. You're saying it's higher by this much, and up in your table you have your numbers. Yes, that would be fine. 0.25, 0.16, 0.43, 0.17. Clinic A is more successful because it has the highest relative frequency, 0.43 for successful treatment, rather than Clinic B, 0.17. P. Yep. They had the wrong relative frequencies, but a correct analysis based on those incorrect answers. All right, go ahead and score yours if you have not already. Part B. Yes. Yes. All right, so let's see. Treating allergy sufferers because they have a higher rate of success than Clinic B, as well as a higher rate of success in comparison to unsuccessful treatment. Yeah, I'd give that a P. Part B. Based on the design of the study, would a statistically significant result allow the researchers to conclude that receiving treatments at the clinic you selected in Part AII causes a higher percentage of unsuccessful treatments, or sorry, higher percentage of successful treatments than at the other clinic? Explain your answer. What are they getting at here? What's the big idea behind this question? Can we show causation? What is it that allows us to show cause? Has to be a treatment. Has to be an experiment. Randomly assigned. Has to be experiment, has to have a treatment, but they have to have random assignment. If you have volunteers, even if you've got a treatment, again, if they volunteer for which section they want to be in. If you have volunteers for the study, but then you randomly assign them, you can still determine cause. But if somebody says, I'll only participate if I can be in the treatment group. Somebody else says, I'll only participate if I can be in the placebo group, or what have you. That's not going to work to show cause. All right, so it says, no, this is an observational study. It is not a randomized experiment. Cause and effect can only be established with a well-designed, randomized experiment. There may be other variables besides where a patient was treated that affect the success rate for treating allergies. For example, Clinic A may mostly treat mild allergy cases that are easy to treat successfully, while Clinic B may mostly treat severe allergy cases that are more difficult to treat successfully. So to get it essentially correct, you had to have the following two components. You had to have a no, you can't determine cause and effect from an observational study. And then you had to have at least one of the following explanations. You either had to say it's an observational study, or you had to talk about the fact that there's no random assignment, or you had to say that there's a possible confounding variable that could affect the success rates for these two clinics. Any of those three ideas to go along with your no is an essentially correct. Partially correct, if you said no, let's see, satisfies component 2 but fails to indicate that the researchers are not justified in making a causal inference. So if you didn't say yes or no, but you just gave reasons, that could give a partially correct. Or if you said no and you had some kind of a statement that implied, that does not imply causation, or that there may be confounding variables without specifying a reasonable confounding variable. To get essentially correct, if you talked about a confounding variable, you had to actually give an example of one, if you only hit one of those. All right, student number 1, they said a lot. Is it necessary to say that much?
No.
Not necessarily. No, researchers could not conclude that receiving treatments at Clinic A would cause a higher percentage of successful treatments because we are unaware if patients were randomly assigned to clinics. It is possible that far more severe patients go to Clinic B and they may have a correspondingly lower success rate. These are actual student answers. This is not made up. This was taken Copy pasted from somebody's actual test. All right, they may have a correspondingly lower success rate. Although we are aware that patient records were randomly selected from one clinic, we are unaware whether the patients from Clinic A are comparable to Clinic B patients, and therefore we cannot conclude a causal relationship between clinics and successes. What do you think? E. Much shorter answer. No, because the study was an observational study, not an experiment. Causation can only be determined from experiments. E, P, or I? E. They answered the question, they said no, and they provided justification using at least one of those three. They said it's an observational study. You can't determine cause from an observational study. Far less writing, still gets an E. Student 3, yes, because the researchers had selected random samples of patients, which tests randomness. Also 207, less than 10% of all treatments, which tests independence of study, and it is assumed that it is normally distributed due to every expected count being greater than 5. That is an I. They were grabbing stats ideas and slapping them on the page and hoping for the best. All right. If you need help scoring your section, please let me know. But again, you had to, in order to get a partially correct, you either had to give some reasons, but then you never actually said yes or no, or you said no and you talked about confounding variables, but you didn't give an example. If you say it's an observational study or we can't determine cause from an observational study and you had your no in there, that's an essentially correct. All right. Then they provided you with this lovely mosaic plot. Does anybody remember from August how to read a mosaic plot? Fair enough. So a mosaic plot gives us information in 2 different dimensions. It gives us information along the x-axis and information along the y-axis. So when you're comparing these 2 clinics, who treats more mild allergy sufferers?
A.
Clinic A. See how much wider it is than over here? And then they've got their success in treating mild allergy sufferers. 78 of the mild allergy sufferers were treated successfully. Only 26 were treated unsuccessfully. Of the severe cases that they see, are they very good at severe?
No.
Not at all. Clinic B doesn't appear to be horribly successful with treating the severe, but they're better than Clinic A. They successfully treated 24 out of 56. Here we successfully treated 10 out of 35. Yes.
What is the purpose for that 11 being so skinny?
What is the purpose for that being so skinny?
Because it's higher up? Or?
No, it's because this clinic does not treat nearly as many mild allergy sufferers. So what this is showing us, this is a really great question. How many total mild allergy sufferers do they treat? 12. How many severe? 56. Add those together. 68, which is the total number treated at Clinic B. Here, this narrowness is meant to represent the comparison here. So while we don't have percentages along the bottom, if I view from here to here being 100% of all the people treated at Clinic B, a very small percentage of them are mild allergy sufferers. So that is a great question. They're giving you a lot of information with how wide or narrow those bars are, along with how tall they are. All right, based on the mosaic plot, the physician concluded the following. For mild allergy sufferers, Clinic B was more successful in treating allergies. For severe allergy sufferers, Clinic B was more successful in treating allergies. For each clinic, which allergy severity is treated more successfully? Justify your answer. For each clinic, which allergy severity is more likely to be treated? Justify your answer. So model solution. Clinic A is more successful in treating mild allergies. Clinic A successfully treated 75% of mild allergy sufferers.
No, I thought it was like what number?
I feel like there's a typo there. Oh, no, sorry. They're talking about mild and then versus severe. Clinic B, more successful in treating mild allergies. Clinic B. So basically what they wanted on that first part, on part I, is if I'm looking just at Clinic A, are they better at treating mild or severe? If I'm just looking at Clinic B, are they better at treating mild or severe? So part CI, we're just looking at one plot, and then just looking at one plot. For part II, Clinic A is more likely to treat mild allergy sufferers than severe allergy sufferers. Of the 139 allergy sufferers treated at Clinic A, 104 suffered from mild allergies, while only 35 suffered from severe allergies. Clinic B was more likely to treat severe allergy sufferers than mild allergy sufferers. Of the 68 allergy sufferers treated at Clinic B, 56 had severe allergies, while only 12 suffered from mild allergies. So again, this is the kind of thing that we're looking at visually. Which box takes up the most area? Mild, right? Mild and successful treatments. The mild bar is the widest here. Over here, the severe bar between those two is the widest. All right, things you needed to have to get an E. You had to have 4 components. Both Clinic A and Clinic B are more successful at treating mild allergies. You have to provide a justification for why you're saying that. In part CII, you have to indicate that Clinic A is better at mild allergies, while Clinic B is more likely to treat severe allergy sufferers, and then you had to provide justification. So let's look at a couple student responses, and then if you guys need help scoring this section, please let me know. Oh, went too far. All right, here's the first student, sorry. Student number 1, mild sufferers are being treated more successfully because 75% of mild patients had successful treatments, while only 28.6% of severe patients had successful treatments. Clinic B, mild sufferers are also more successful as 91.67% of mild allergies had successful treatments, while only 42.8% of severe cases had successful treatments. How do you feel about the first part? They provided that it's mild for both of them, and they have justification for it. Part II, Clinic A, mild cases made up for 104 of the 139 cases, or 74.82%, indicating that mild cases are more likely to be treated at Clinic A. Severe cases made up for 56 of the 68 cases, or 82.35%, indicating that severe cases are more likely to be treated at Clinic B. They got an E. Shorter answer. Student 2 is not nearly as verbose as student 1. Mild, because 78 over 104 mild allergy cases were treated successfully, as opposed to 10 out of 35 severe. Mild, because 11 out of 12 mild allergy cases were treated successfully, as opposed to 24 out of 56 severe allergy cases.
Is that right?
From that graph, yeah. What do you think about CI? Yeah? CII. Mild, because 104 out of 39 of the allergy cases are mild severity, more than half. Clinic B, severe, because 56 out of 68 of the allergy cases are severe severity, more than majority. Yeah, they got an E. Where did you go? Student 3, the mild allergy for Clinic A, because the successful result was 0.75 or 75%, which is higher than severe success, which had 28.5% or 0.2857. Clinic B, the mild allergy, is because success result was 0.91 or 92%, and severe allergy was 42.8%. What do you think about part CI? Yeah. Part II, mild allergy because it had the higher success rate, 75%, than severe success rate, which is 28.5%. Clinic B, mild allergy because it has a higher success rate, 92%, than severe success rate, 42%. No. Because remember, in Part II, they were asking, who are they more likely to treat? This got a P. For Part C, because it was scored as one whole unit. So they got Part I, but they missed Part II, so they got a P. Does anybody need help scoring their own? Yep, I'll be over there.
I know that one.
Mild because they have the greater amount of patients, not percentage that we treat. That part would be a no. Mild because they had a greater percentage of successful rate than severe. Also mild. Yeah, that would get an I. Yep. Yes. Just the part II? Okay. Mild because it had a higher percent of successful treatments than the successful treatment for patients with severe allergies. Severe, higher proportion of patients. So you've got the idea here that more of their patients are severe. Here you're talking about how they're more successful with treating the mild. So this part would be a no.
Alright. I'm pretty sure it's an I, but like just in case.
Higher proportion and majority success rates. Severe is treated more successfully due to the higher success ratio. Mild because more patients are going to this clinic with the severity. Severe because more patients are going to this clinic. If you had provided some like numerical backing for it, you would have gotten a P on this.
So it's an I.
It's an I, unfortunately. But if you had just said like this many out of whatever, you had the right idea on Part B. Part A not so much, but Part B you had absolutely the right idea.
Okay.
Does anybody else need help scoring Part C on their own page? Right. Part D. Using your answers from Part C, give a reasonable explanation of why the more successful clinic identified in Part AII is the same as or different from the physician's conclusion that Clinic B is more successful in treating both severe and mild allergies. Model solution, way too much. The more successful clinic identified in Part AII is Clinic A, which is different from the physician's conclusion that Clinic B is better when taking allergy severity into account. This happens because for both clinics, the success rate is much higher for mild allergy sufferers, 75% versus 28.6% for Clinic A and 91.7% versus 42.9% for Clinic B. Clinic A treats mostly mild allergy sufferers, while Clinic B treats mostly severe allergy sufferers. Therefore, when combining the results across allergy severity categories to obtain the table from Part AI, the facts that Clinic A treats a larger proportion of mild allergy sufferers and mild allergy sufferers have a higher success rate make it appear as if Clinic A is better overall. Before we kind of look at these components here, let's go look at some student samples and we'll look at how those are scored and then we can come back and look at the criteria. Because Clinic A saw so many more mild patients, which both clinics treated more successfully, it appeared to have more successful treatments compared to the number of treatments. Clinic B saw more severe patients, and although they were better at treating severe patients than Clinic A, they weren't better at treating severe patients. They weren't better at treating severe patients than Clinic A was. Oh, they weren't better at treating severe patients than Clinic A was at treating mild patients. Which is why Clinic A appeared more successful. This is an example of Simpson's paradox. This got an E. Basically what they're saying is Clinic A saw more people with mild allergies, and mild allergies have a better chance of being treated successfully. So even though Clinic B had a higher percentage of success in each of these two categories, because they mostly focused on the severe patients, which doesn't have a great outcome, they didn't appear to be as successful as Clinic A. right, student 2. This is an example of Simpson's paradox. When looking at the numbers, it's easy to assume that Clinic B is more successful because it has higher proportions. However, the fact that there are more cases in Clinic A is not considered. Each clinic must be compared against itself to get a more accurate data to compare. It's got an I. It's got an I. Yeah. The reasoning here, it said it correctly states that this is Simpson's paradox. However, the response fails to satisfy either component 1 or component 2 in explaining the reason for the paradox. Did you have to know that it was called Simpson's paradox to get points on this? No. But you did have to provide reasoning. Did they provide justification based on evidence? Not really. They talked about generalities, but they didn't actually bring any evidence. Student 3, Clinic B is the most successful clinic, which is the same as the physician's conclusion because Clinic B, in comparison to Clinic A, is higher in both severe and mild. The mild success rate is higher in Clinic B, which is 92%, in comparison to the mild success rate in Clinic A, which is 75%. Also, the severe success rate was higher in Clinic B, which is 43%, in comparison to severe success rate in Clinic A, which is only 29%. That got an I. So let's go back and look at the criteria. For component 1, there were 2 ways to satisfy component 1. The response indicates that within each clinic, the proportion of successfully treated mild allergy sufferers is greater than the proportion of successfully treated severe allergy sufferers. So they're better at treating mild cases, or you could say that the overall proportion of successfully treated mild allergy sufferers is much larger than the overall proportion of successfully treated severe allergy sufferers. You had to have some evidence for this. You had to have some justification. For component 2, the response indicates that the allergy sufferers treated by Clinic A include a much greater proportion of mild cases than the allergy sufferers treated by Clinic B, using those sample proportions, not just stating that big idea, but bringing those numbers into it. Or you could say the response indicates that the allergy sufferers treated by Clinic B includes a much greater proportion of severe cases than the allergy patients treated by Clinic A, again with sample proportions. Or you could have said the response indicates that of the allergy sufferers treated at Clinic A, a higher proportion are mild than severe, and the allergy sufferers treated by Clinic B had a higher proportion that were severe than mild. If you guys need help scoring section D on your page, let me know.
I like the right idea.
The answer was different because this position was solely going based on the percentage, which you can't do because of different sample sizes, and then based on how many patients were actually successfully treated. So you have the right idea, but you didn't have support for it. So because of what's actually written on the page, it would be an I, but if you flesh that out some more with some actual values, that would be a P or an E.
Okay. Right idea, wrong execution.
There we go.
I don't even have that idea.
This would be different from the physician's conclusion because while Clinic B would be more successful in treating severe allergies due to them having a higher rate of success than Clinic A would actually have a higher rate of success than Clinic B in mild allergy cases. That's actually not true, that right there, which you can see here. If you just compare, this is successes to failures in Clinic B, successes to failures in Clinic A. Just based on that, I know it's different sample sizes, but based on their percentage, even if I'm a mild allergy sufferer, I want to go here because they're better at it. They don't see as many, but they're better at it. So I think you're right with an I on that one. Does anybody else need help scoring
It's okay.
part D?
Is mine average? The average is actually 19.
All right.
That's just slightly. I don't like when
Every section, every E is worth 1 because we are scored this in 4 sections. Every E is worth 1. Every P is worth a half. If you end up with a score like a 1.5 or a 2.5, round down.
Let me round up. We can have the right idea.
I
I was gonna say, if you want, it's your paper. If it makes you feel better, then round up. But I'm just trying to make sure that. So the big difference between rounding up and rounding down on these is usually clarity in your explanation. Like if you knocked part B out of the park, like you didn't just provide the minimum correct answer, but you explained all of these pieces or whatever. If you had sections that were explaining and you did a really good job of clearly communicating, that would be the type of thing that would round you up versus round you down. All right, there is something that I want to pass out to you guys.
You got one P and 2 R.
Here we go.
I don't think you got 2 pieces.
It's only she got one only three. She got a half.
Okay,
A half is damn near one.
Just like, yeah, just round it up.
here we go.
I rounded mine up.
Like I can't do that.
I can't do it because I had the right idea.
Exactly. I run mine up.